So welcome to today's coaching call, this week's coaching call. This week, we're going to talk about foam rolling, which I use as a catch-all term for self-myofascial release. And technically, that's not an accurate term at this point. People are debating, it's not important for us, but it's good for you to know that people are debating what they should call it because they're not actually releasing a muscle. So when we say self-myofascial release, self meaning self-applied, myofascial having to do with the fascia within the muscles. So it's that silvery, if you ever look at a pork tenderloin, that's that silvery stuff. It's easier to see than that than meat, but also has to do with mobilizing tissue. Release is the thing, it's not releasing anything. So they're going back and forth on what they should call it. I think it's semantics, but whatever. So we're going to go over the different types of implements you can use for SMR, as we're going to call it, or foam rolling, and the reasons why. So if you have any of these implements, feel free to follow along. I'm going to walk you through them. They are all in the modules, so it's a little bit better. It's a little bit better if y'all happen to have any questions about certain areas, but I'm going to go over the different types. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me get this in a second. There we go. All right. So these are some of the different types of foam rollers. These are 1 foot varieties and 3 foot varieties. You can't see those at all. So 1 foot, 3 foot. And then there's all kinds of different ones. And some of them actually vibrate. If you're interested in that, I have a hookup on those guys. I can get you a little bit of a discount. It's from Hyperice. Hyperice, they're the people who make the massage gun, which we're going to go over here in a second. I don't have that one. I have a different brand, but they're like the second iteration of it. The Theragun was the first iteration, and Hyperice, their Hypervolt massage gun is the one that's come up next. But when you're looking at foam rollers, what you're looking at, differences versus in size. And there's really not a 2 foot variation. I don't know why, I don't know. But obviously these are a little more portable. Not great because it's not like they fold or bend or anything. The 3 foot model is great because you can roll over large areas of the body without having to get up and reposition yourself, which is nice. But that's really about the only difference. You know, if you've got the space for a 3 footer, go with a 3 footer. If you don't, go for a 1 footer. You're just going to be repositioning yourself a lot more often. So as you roll over an area, you're going to run out of room. That's about it. This was my very first foam roller given me by a massage therapist, and it's still dense, as you can see. It's softer. It's going to break down over time. So this is probably, I got this in maybe 2009. It's 2021. Now, granted, I haven't used it that much, but I mean, I've used it, my clients have used it. This is great for people with osteoporosis, for older people. So it works really well for that. And you can see it's definitely not as stable. It's got some give to it as opposed to these other ones, which don't really have any give to them whatsoever. But when you tend to have, besides older people, if you're really tender in certain areas, or they've never had massage, or they're just locked up, so to speak, you don't need any of these harder implements. So you want to start with something soft if you have the availability. Most people are going to be fine with these, but just in my experience, I'm thinking of the client who comes here to this gym to work out with me. She's in her early 70s, has osteoporosis, and this is her favorite. It gets the job done. So that's the second thing is you gotta be really careful with people who have osteoporosis and the positions you put them in, because those positions can cause their bones to break depending on the level of osteoporosis that they have. So this I got from Perform Better. You can get it on my website. This was given to me by a client who moved, so I don't actually know where this came from. but you can tell that there's just a difference. We've got smooth versus knotty and knobby. There's another one by Trigger Point Therapy. They do it, and they're a good one. The differences are that the denser it is, the deeper the level of penetration you're going to get into the muscle fibers and the muscle tissue. So if you've got certain areas like your pocket muscle, like right here, TFL, it's just as difficult to get into, or like in your quads or your calves, it's just really hard to get where you need to be, especially as you get better and things start moving better. You're going to want something that's a little harder. Is one better than another? In my experience, no, not so much. So I'm going to use the black one here in a second. If you can't see me, let me know. So real quick, I want to talk about this. This is another implement. This is a percussive massage gun. This one is particularly made by Jawku, Jawku. And there's a link to it on my website. Go to McCuiston.com/shop, and you should be able to find a link for it. It comes with a bunch of different attachments. And this is still kind of new technology, but it's one of those things where if you try it, you're gonna love it. I mean, it's really wonderful for getting the hard to reach areas like up here, like here, like here. TFL, especially if, for example, I have a client who has thumb pain, not thumb pain. She had surgery on her thumb, and she's had all kinds of issues where she can't put weight on her wrist to be able to foam roll. So we have to use the massage gun. Or if you got somebody who can't get on the floor, or you want to get in between here and you don't have a lacrosse ball, it's one of those good options to have. I really like it. So it comes with all these different types of attachments. We've got a flat head, we've got a pokey one, so to speak. It's really good for your upper traps, and this football goal looking thing. I'll be honest, I've done some training on these, and there's not a ton of science in why you pick what you do. You just go with what feels best, basically. So this has 5 different levels, and it's 5 different speeds. And what they say is when you're using these, the lower speeds go slower. People think that's less intense. Not necessarily. They think it punches harder, it vibrates deeper into the tissue because it's going slower. The faster that vibration is, the more shallow the penetration is. So as you can see, I wonder if this shows up. Pretty fast. So if you see one of these things in slow-mo, it's kind of funny. I love using these things, especially here. I've been having some neck compression issues with this stupid thing I've got going with the numbness and tingling, and being on the road and sleeping in bad positions with different pillows and stuff. I was trying to do a plank the other day. I was trying to foam roll this way the other day, and the numbness and tingling just got immediately worse. And I just thought, some days are great and other days are not great. So what did I do? I use this instead of the foam roller. So that's another option you have. And then when it comes to the forearms, I've got a very special implement. It's called the Arm Aid. And you've probably seen this. This is also available on my website. There's a link on my website. This is the new version. I'll show you the old one. This is the old one they had forever. Kind of bulky, and as you can see, it's definitely bigger. There we go. So this one, you put on your leg and you strap it in like a seat belt, which was nice because then it wouldn't go anywhere. But and it would move around like this, which is nice, but it was big and bulky, kind of awkward. This one is a little more ergonomically friendly, I'd say. So the way you use it is that you set it according to the size you need it to be, depending on the body part you're going to use it. And you can use it on the front of your shins, which I think is really nice. And we don't talk about our lower bodies as musicians very often because we're very much more consumed with the idea of our upper bodies taking the brunt of the work, which they do. But depending on what else is going on in your life and how much you sit, your calves especially can get really tight. Your anterior tibialis right in here can get really tight. It's just nice, especially if you're doing any kind of other things like running, maybe yoga, maybe swimming, maybe some other things. It's just nice to be able to get those areas. And I like this because it makes it easy to get bicep and tricep. So what we're doing when we talk about self-myofascial release is we're looking for tender points. We're looking for we use this in the overactive muscles, right? So areas that you're going to use this on are going to tend to be in the front of the body. Obviously not this, but you're going to roll like your chest, your upper traps, your biceps, occasionally the triceps, the forearms, quads, TFL, seldom the hamstrings, calves, glutes, upper back. You do not roll the low back. The low back has a lordotic curve here, and it's not meant to have pressure into it that way, okay? So don't go pressing on your low back. I know some people say it's great, but you can use it, you can use a lacrosse ball here, and I know we've talked about this before. You can use a lacrosse ball in those areas. So say we're gonna put that right in your QL, that's fine, but you don't want to use a foam roller, right? So getting back to the arm aid, how you use it, and I've got videos out on YouTube if you want to see some more about this. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your arm through it. Ideally you're sitting, but it doesn't really matter. And then you're just gonna, oh gosh, right there. You're gonna roll your arm through there, just like a massage, right? But the difference is when you find that tender spot, that thing that rolls, it feels like a knot, like, you know, they call it a knot, or it feels like it clumps back and forth, or you find that most tender spot, like right, this whole area is tender, but see if you can find the most tender spot, like with any of these areas of foam rolling, okay? So like right there, yeah, it's nice. When I say nice, I feel that in my whole hand. Okay, so if you are a woodwind player, a violinist, you're gonna feel this more in the left hand. Guitar can be both, bass can be both, flute. If you use your fingers a lot, this is gonna be really nice. This was originally designed for rock climbers. And I reached out to them and said, hey, what about musicians? They're, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Like, well, you should. So I've been able to put a lot of these in the hands of musicians, and they really love them. I love them too. So right there. So what you're gonna do when it comes to SMR, you're gonna hold this for about 30 seconds. On a 1 to 10 pain scale, I'm trying to say pain scale and pain level at the same time. On a 1 to 10 pain scale, you never want your pain level to be above a 7. 7 is pushing it. So like if this hurts and I think, oh, more is better. No, it's not. Because then you inadvertently tense up other places or even in that area. And then the muscle doesn't have a chance to relax. So remember, we're trying to get the overactive muscles to calm down. The reasoning is when we get the overactive muscles to calm down, then we have a chance for the underactive muscles to take part and actually do their job because they've been inhibited by these overactive muscles. So that's something that we call reciprocal inhibition, meaning you have an overactive muscle, or in this case, overactive muscle, underactive muscle, potentially. This can also just be tender because it's been overused and it's inflamed and it's sore and it's tight and it's tired. This can help with healing and blood flow to the area, and it just feels amazing. If you've ever had a massage, you know how you feel after a massage. That massages your forearms. So we go over the musculature of the forearms pretty in depth in some of those modules. You don't have to know all of it. Pronator Teres is a big one right here. It pronates the hand, that's a big one. And then you're gonna find that these muscles up in here, you know, they turn into those tendons which turn into carpal tunnel then, right? Carpal tunnel right in here. So if these are swollen and tight, you gotta get them to calm down and get that inflammation down so the swelling will go down, so you have more of a chance to get that feeling back. You can also use this on your thumb. It's another thought. You're gonna put on its narrowest setting, but you can see right in that fleshy part of your thumb, You're gonna find that spot. You roll all around until you find right in, right in there, and then you can stretch that, right? Oh, yeah. It's hard to do this holding it and moving, but, and then you can stretch. So another thing that you can do when you're doing SMR is you can stretch the muscle while you are pressing on the tender point. Not always, but for example, if we go back to how we're going to use here, right? So I'm rolling right in here. There's that spot. Oh, that's so nice. So, yeah, let's see. Like the kind that chiropractors use. Yeah, well, no, I think theirs is something different. I'm not sure if it's the same or not when it comes to the massage guns. I'm not 100% sure. But so like right there. Yeah, you'll know when you find the most tender spot. See, I want to do this and that made it worse. Relax that hand, because if it's too tender and you press harder, you're just going to tense up, right? So we're just going to relax. What I found is in here. So I'm going to stretch it that way. Oh, and sometimes it feels good, sometimes it doesn't. If you ever try to find an ART practitioner that's active release technique, they're going to do something similar where they hold on a tender point and then pull the muscle through its, they stretch the muscle while they're holding on a tender point, which hurts a lot, but they're basically forcing the muscle to relax. It's instant pain relief. Mobility is restored. It's amazing. It's wonderful stuff. So that's how you can use it on your forearm. With the tricep, you never want to roll. We're not going to go over the entire body, I don't think. If you have anything you want me to address specifically, let me know. But with foam rolling, a couple rules. You never roll over a joint. So we're not going to roll over a joint here. We're not going to roll over a bone. So the upper back is a little bit of an exception to that. I'll show you in a minute. So never roll over a joint. You never roll over a bone. Do not roll the low back. I think that's it. Okay, so if we're gonna go tricep, so here's the edge of the tricep. So if you've got that app, you open up that app and you find where the trigger points are. So here's one of the trigger points. So we've got that tendon, here's the muscle, here's the belly of the muscle. If you find that it's tender, you can bring your arm all the way in there and you find that spot like there. Oh gosh. Oh, guess what I need to be doing? That's always funny when I'm sharing this, I'm demonstrating stuff to my clients. I need to do this, you know? So your tricep extends your arm, right? So what we're gonna do to stretch it is the opposite. So oh gosh, that goes all the way in my hand. So you're gonna hold, but if you want to stretch it while you're holding, you're gonna bring it the opposite way, okay? I think it feels just fine to not. But if you wanted to, you could. So the goal is no more than a 7 on a 1 to 10 pain scale, hold for 30 seconds or until the pain level goes down to about a 1 or a 2. So what you're going to find is you're holding these tender points, most of them, not all of them, the chest being one. You're going to find that suddenly, when you think about it, that in the beginning, the pain is all you can think about. And then the longer you hold it, if I was to ask you, well, how does it feel now? You'd have to think about it. It means the pain level is going down. So it's good to kind of pay attention to, oh, I don't really feel it anymore. Okay, that means it's time to move on. Oh man, that feels good. Okay, so bicep, again, you're gonna find that tender point. And if you have it, and if you want to extend, and we're not flexing here, I'm not going to full end range, right? We're just going to move right through that range of motion. So that's one of the ways that you can use the arm aid. If you want to follow those upper stretches, but we're not going to do that today. We're just going to go SMR today. This is the first step in designing your own corrective exercise program, and that is figuring out what to add, what to SMR, and how to SMR. So, if you don't have an arm aid, you can also use the massage gun in those same areas. If you don't have a lacrosse ball, you can use the massage gun in those same areas. Basically, a massage gun can take the place of any of these implements you want to. So, and that brings us to another question. How do you know what's tight versus what, like, how do you know what to foam roll? Well, with the anatomy knowledge that you're gaining through this course, you should have a better idea of what is going on, especially when you think about how you play your instrument now. So say you play violin, and the pain is behind your shoulder blade. This is a common one, right? Behind the right shoulder blade. I talked to a violist today from Switzerland. Guess where her pain was? Here, right? I mean, it's back here all the time for us. So if you think, remember, most of the muscles on the front of the side of the body tend to be tight. This is an overgeneralization, but you're going to find it to be true. And most of the muscles on the back side of the body, or the posterior chain, tend to be weak. So if we are thinking about how we live our daily lives, which is doing everything in the front of our bodies, we eat, we type, we text. I say text because we text like this. We don't text like this. I mean, you know, sing in the choir, you're better than most of the rest of us. But, you know, I mean, everything we do is this way. We drive all of it, right? So if you think about that and then you put your instrument in front of you, your instrument might be off to the side, but it's still in the front of your body. It's not the back of your body. So if you think about where the pain is, another thing to think about is, okay, so if I'm using this and I'm going to roll that area on the back side where it hurts and it feels really good, but it doesn't really improve anything. Like it feels good, but the pain level doesn't go down. It doesn't get better. My mobility, it still hurts. It doesn't solve the problem. Good indication it's probably weak and tight. And it doesn't, what you did is good, it calmed it down. But think about what's on the opposite side of that. So if you've got a push muscle and you tend to be going this way, think about a pull muscle. Are you doing enough pulling? If not, that's how you're going to think about pain. Remember, the pain site of pain is very seldom the source of pain. At least with what we're talking about, we're not talking about acute injuries or anything. So, for example, if you've got forearm issues, that's another one. That could be the site of pain, but say your pain is here. Well, if you're not doing a lot with your thumb, but you're like, why is this tingly and numb and painful? And okay, check your forearm, go up the chain. That's okay. What about your tricep? Oh, wow, that's really locked up. Oh, this is really tender. So we just keep going up the chain. So think about it that way, okay? So that's another thing to think about when it comes to SMR. All right, so do y'all have any questions about specific things before we get into how to use a foam roller? Okay, so I'm going to show you some of my favorites. These videos are in the module, so if I go a little fast, don't worry, they're all there. I just wanted to expound on them a little more quickly, or a little more in depth, I should say, than what I did in those videos. Okay, so remember, with the foam roller, you never go low back. So for ladies, you want to think bra line, right there. For everybody else, or just in general, right about the bottom of your shoulder blades. That's it, don't go any lower, okay? So you're gonna take this foam roller, roll your upper back, and I'll tell you why in a second. Put it right, see where I've got it? Right at the base of my shoulder blades. What you're gonna do is you're gonna let your head rest in your hands. I'm gonna show you two different things. Everyone puts them together. No, they are two separate things, okay? Promise, these are two separate, do not do these at the same time. And now that I've said that, I guarantee everyone's gonna try to do them. So you're gonna let your head rest in your hands. You're gonna pull your elbows in front of your face. And the reason you do that is because it separates the scapula. It gives you more real estate back here in between the shoulder blades for you to be able to get to. So elbows go in front of the face, lift your butt up. Notice I'm not going backwards, I'm just like straight lining it, right? And you're just gonna roll, oh, that's so nice. Roll that upper back area. And while you're doing this, I want you to pay attention. Am I pulling my head or am I letting it rest? Do I have extra tension while I'm doing this? Okay, and you're not gonna do it a lot, just a couple times. Okay, the second part of this is called the thoracic extension. What you're gonna do is you're gonna find a spot, you roll around, it feels really nice. And then you're just gonna stop, plant your butt on the ground, and lean backwards. So ideally, your head will touch the ground. People laugh at me when they say that's true. It's true, your head should actually touch the ground or come close, okay? So this is invariably, when I show this to people, they do this. They lean back and try to roll at the same time. Please do not do that. They are two separate things and they are in that order, okay? So I find that to be necessary for just about everybody. The reason for this is not because your upper back, it's different. This one, what we're talking about earlier, where you're pressing in the middle of a trigger point, this is not that. This is where the foam roller is going to be used for mobilization. So you're able to mobilize that area. What I find a lot is that most people lack thoracic extension and mobility. And especially musicians, when you're pulled one way, you tend to lose that mobility the other direction. Hold the phone. Is my picture really kind of blurry? Or am I just making that up?
It's a little blurry, but I can still see you fine.
Okay. Thank you. It's kind of strange why that looks so weird. Probably because I just updated my camera. Well, that's what I get for updating my camera. It made it worse. Nice. So anyway, you're going to use this to bring mobility to your upper back. Okay. Then ideally, we're going to follow it with a stretch, usually chest stretch, bicep stretch, all of that for here. And then you want to follow it with mobilization patterns, which we're going to get into mobilization activation a little later. But I'll just show you my favorite. So we roll there. Now we're going to roll the chest. We're going to stretch. I'm going to show you my favorite mobilization exercise. It's called an open book. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can do this. You can do it thread the needle. You can do this without the foam roller, but if you've got it, it's kind of nice. You're going to put your hands out this way, and you're going to try to bring, it's not about your hand. Try to bring your shoulder towards the opposite side on the floor. The goal is that this does not roll back and forth. So if you do this, that's a gross exaggeration, but your leg should not roll at all. What's your, the whole point of this is so you can see, are my hips rolling or not? Am I moving? If your hips move, you're not getting thoracic rotational mobility. You're cheating from here. So let's see. Is it better on the other side? Oh yeah, way easier. Way easier. You're gonna feel a really nice pull in your low back, but if you play an asymmetrical instrument, don't be surprised if that is different from one side to the other. So that's upper back. Lats is another one. So remember I said you never roll over a joint. So when you're doing this, not everybody needs this. There are several of these that you're gonna do them, you're like, do I need them? If they hurt, if you need them, you're gonna know it right away. If you're hunting around and you don't really find anything, you don't need it, you just move on, right? So just because, say we've developed, or you have now developed your own corrective exercise program, and you found these areas to be tight and blah, 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 and then one day you're like, I don't really feel anything. Well, don't hang out there, move on, you don't need it. The body is not a static thing, nor will its compensations be, even if you continue to play your instrument the way that you do and live your life the way you do. The body changes, you're going to adapt, that's the whole point of this. So if one day this doesn't hurt anymore, don't do it. You don't need to keep doing it. So with lats, this can be a little uncomfortable, but really effective. So here's my armpit. I'm right below it. It's hard to tell, I know. But like this would be the joint. You don't want to put pressure into a joint. That makes things really unstable and unhappy, right? So right below your armpit. Now, if you lean forward, you're not going to feel a whole lot. The reason we're doing this is because, as you remember from anatomy, the lats go from your arm here, the head of the humerus. They go from the humerus and they insert on the top of the pelvis. So if they are tight, when we do this squat assessment that I'm going to show you later, when you lift your arms, if your low back arches to get you that range of motion, that's a good indication that your lats are tight. So what you're going to do is you're going to put that right below your armpit. You're going to lean backwards. We're not going forward. You're going to lean, oh, right there. Yeah. Lean backwards. You're just going to roll what feels like your top couple of ribs. That's not anatomically accurate, but it's close enough, right? So right in there, if you find something, you're going to feel it. And you can literally just hang out. like this, because it's just awkward. It probably isn't gonna feel good on your neck, but getting to the lats is not an easy thing. So hang out as long as you can, or until that pain level goes down. Like there's a referred pain point, I feel it down into my arm. That means you're in the right spot. So that's lats. Just moving along the back side of the body. Glutes are another one. So when you sit a lot, or you have sciatic pain or low back pain, one of the muscles that tends to be the culprit for those things is called your piriformis. It's a deep hip rotator. It's deep inside your hips. So when I say you're going to roll your glutes, you are rolling the area of the glutes, but we're also going to roll the deep inside hip external rotators like piriformis, probably not obturators, but piriformis being the main one. And the reason for that is it goes right from the edge of your sacrum all the way over to the head of your femur right here. And your sciatic nerve comes out of your lumbar, it comes here, and it runs right down through the middle of that piriformis. Your sciatic nerve runs right through the middle. When your piriformis gets tight, guess what? It squishes that nerve, and then you get these shooting pains down your leg, and we're trying to deal with the leg, but the leg isn't the problem, it's in your butt. So this is how you deal with it. You're literally gonna sit on it, you're gonna put, can you see this in there? The other one. It's not easy to see. So you wanna do both, but point being, so I've got one, you're gonna roll one butt cheek at a time. You're not rolling the sacrum. You do not roll your tailbone. That would be really awful, ouch. So the tender points you're gonna find tend to be closer, either right in the middle of the muscle or closer to the edge of the insertion point. So like by the joint, and I've got one like right there. Okay, so to do piriformis or glutes, you're gonna know it if you need it. Boy, that's tight. Okay, so this is step one. Step two, if it's not that bad, is you're gonna cross one leg over the other. The leg that you're crossing is the side that you're rolling. Everybody wants to do the opposite. Move the leg that you're rolling, okay? You're gonna lean back and forth so you find it. Whew. All right, when that gets easy, third progression, you're gonna extend your left leg. This is my right leg. Extend your left. We go from here to here, pull, lean. I'll tell you right now, it hurts. Okay, so, and then obviously you want to follow that up with the opposite side. And then to do your calves, I find everybody's calves to be tight. 8 out of 10 people. There are a couple of people that it's just not really them, but they are few and far between. Okay, so when it comes to rolling your calves, some considerations. If you are an obese person, a person with osteoporosis, those are the two I can think of, or an elderly person. You might want to be careful with these because you're going to put a lot of pressure on your wrists. When it comes to helping people who are overweight, and I mean grossly overweight, not a little bit, they have their ability to move and get up and down from the floor can be pretty compromised. So what I tell people when they're talking about learning how to train people and some things that you don't think about, it's really important when you're dealing with how to help somebody and you want to help them with SMR, but they can't get on the ground. It's really important to understand that the whole person is involved in this whole fitness issue. And if somebody feels humiliated or embarrassed, they're probably not going to do it, and then they're just done and they're not going to get any better, or yourself included, right? So take that into consideration if you're helping somebody else or you're doing this to yourself. Remember that in a situation where you're on the ground, in one of those situations, can be a little compromising. With the osteoporosis, when it comes to rolling the calves, especially, or the glutes, you can see how much pressure I have. And people try to do it like this. No. Use your arms and legs to balance you. I mean, I have this one client, man, she has no clue. And we've been doing this for like a year now. And she's like, oh yeah, you know. So it's funny, people just, they don't think, which is, it's fine, but it's just something to be aware of, right? But you'll notice I'm putting a lot of pressure on my wrists, and some people can't tolerate that pressure. When it comes to people who have brittle bone disease, like osteoporosis, osteopenia, which is a precursor, or certain types of cancer like multiple myeloma, which is basically having glass bones, you gotta be really careful with the amount of pressure you put in an area. And that's something else to think about. We're not gonna get into it, but when musicians have cancer, there's a whole lot that goes into it. I trained somebody a couple of years ago who had multiple myeloma, and there are a whole lot of considerations. You want to make sure the person is really stable and they're not doing things like this, putting a lot of body weight on one specific spot. So just something to take into consideration. So when it comes to the calves, you want to roll the entire calf. So the outside, the middle, and the inside. There's a couple ways we can do it. One, if things are pretty tight and you're good, like right there down below, if you find some tender points down here in the Achilles, that can turn into plantar fasciitis. So we're not going to get into that. That's a whole lot of things. But take notice if you've got something here. You might also want to use that lacrosse ball on the bottom of your foot. Check out your toes. Are they inhibited? Do they move when you do this? So you've got a tender point right here in the Achilles, right? You can roll all the way around, but what we're going to do generally, we're going to do one leg. The other leg is on the ground. Rotate your leg out so your toes are pointing outwards. And you're going to roll all the way to just below the knee. Remember, you never roll over a joint. So just below the knee and back. Looking for tender points. If you find one, hang out. Like right there. But it's not very, it's tender, but I'm not like, watch it roll. Right? Boom. I'm not really feeling it. Like I can't get to it. So if you can't, you can cross one leg over the other to provide extra pressure, right? There you go, like right in the middle. Oh yeah, it's really nice. But here's another thing I see a lot. People think they have to hold themselves up all the time. And no, you don't. You don't. You can literally just scoot. If you're on carpet, it's gonna be a lot harder. But anyway, so those are the two ways that you can do that. So you want to go all the way up. A lot of times you're gonna find trigger points in here and here, sometimes in the middle, not very often, definitely not as often, and on the inside or right in there, but not as often. Most of the time they're outside. Why? Well, think about it. If you look at your own posture when we do these squat assessments, which we're going to talk about later, your feet go out. Most people's feet go out, which indicates core weakness, including glutes, TFL tightness, biceps femoris tightness, calf tightness. It just goes all the way down, right? And then all of this tends to be weak. I say all of this because the knees tend to cave in, but it's another story. So just think about this being one chain. So if you look in the guides, I think I have some information about the slings and the subsystems. We're going to start to see patterns with, which is really cool, like how the body moves together and how different things like the glute and the opposite shoulder or contralateral shoulder, they work together. Like, what? Oh yeah, does this foot hurt? Oh wait, right off the chain, all of this, and then it crosses the body, and then it's actually a pretty fascinating thing if you want to do a deep dive into it, which we're not going to do. But yeah, so that's the calves. We've only got a couple more, I think, so we're going to talk about. We're going to do real quick the quads and the TFL, because the TFL is basically tight on everybody. TFL stands for tensor fasciolata, which is just easier to say TFL. And I call it the pocket muscle because it's literally where your pocket is. The reason that's important is because we know where our pockets are when we're standing up. When you're down on the ground, it's really easy to forget exactly where your pockets are. Everybody thinks they're way over here, way up here, with pockets. So when you're trying this out for yourself, I'd wear pockets. Wear some pants with pockets, with hopefully no chapstick or anything in them, no keys or anything, so you get a sense of where your pockets are, right? And then from there, we're gonna do a couple more upper body things. We've already talked about the neck, that's all with fingers. So quads. Things to think about this, quads, TFL, and hip flexors, this whole little area. When we sit so much to play, these hips tend to be flexed. So how much time of the day are we sitting in a flexed position? Quite a lot. We're driving, we're sitting to eat, we're in rehearsal, we're at a computer, we're at a desk, blah, 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 right? And then when at home, we collapse on the couch and we're still like this, right? We're not spread out like this very often, right? So the important thing to note is this whole area can be tight. The hip flexors pull on the low back, like this OS. They flex the hip this way. And the quads up here do a little bit of that as well. They also extend the legs. So when they're in this position all the time, they're kind of slack, but it doesn't mean they can't be tight and weak. So it's a good thing to learn how to check them all out. So what we're going to do is we're going to do them all together in a kind of a quick little run through. Your trigger points, and if you've got the app, again, this is a good place to kind of look through and be like, oh, yeah, they're here. And it's fun to see where the referred pain patterns go. So it's nice to go backwards. So if you've got low back pain, we go into the hip flexor muscles, we go into glute muscles, look at what's around your pain point before you get into that specific pain point and see if there's a correlation. Is there like a blue, is there a blue referred pain pattern from a trigger point from a different muscle? Maybe so, you might be on something. So with quads, they tend to be tight right here, and then hip flexors right below. Remember, you don't want to roll over a joint. So when you find the crease of your hips, you're going to roll right below, and then just go slightly over. That's your pocket muscle. Let me do it this way. You do a chapstick. I know it's like birth bees. It's my favorite. I used to be I know some people love Carmex and some people love, what is it, Chop Saver. What's that other one? Blistex used to be my favorite. And then I found Burt's Bees and there was no going back. All right. So the way that I like to do this, we're going to do quads first. You're going to get into a plank position. I'll show you on the left side so you can see it better. So plank position. You're going to find, right, that's right at the crease of my hips. You're going to roll all the way down. And notice that my other leg, you can't see it. My other leg is on the ground giving me support. So I'm not literally doing a plank, right? I'm not, well, you can, but just let your body rest on the ground, right? Okay, so say I found a spot right here in my quads. If you want to stretch it, you can stretch it while you're pressing on it. Just be prepared, it's probably going to hurt. You're going to bring your heel towards your butt. Yep, and then relax. Easy, 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 easy. Okay, roll it out. And I ordinarily tell people at least roll the area once before you hang out in that tender spot. And don't immediately go into stretching. It's more of a, you'll know when you need it type thing, okay? So that's quads and hip flexors all in one go. TFL, you can go right from quads to hip flexors. To TFL. So the greater trochanter of your femur is right here, okay? You don't want to be on that bone. It is not going to feel good. So you want to go right below it, and you're going to keep yourself in this nice side plank position. So your elbow is directly underneath your shoulder, so your bones are supporting the weight of your body, not your muscles so much. This leg is here, giving you extra support because this muscle tends to be really tender. And you're not going to go way back. You're going to lean, oh, right there. Whew, lean forward, and you're going to find it. You're not going to have to do much. If it hurts, you'll find it. Plus, I have a knobby one, so. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk about the TFL for 5 seconds. The TFL, if you've ever heard of runner's knee or the IT band or IT band syndrome, the TFL is the culprit. Do not roll your IT band. You will be wasting your time and it's incredibly painful and it won't do any good. So the IT band, so if you can see, so if I straighten up, well, you all saw a little minute ago, TFL is here. The IT band kind of bisects the quad muscles here, right? It starts here as your TFL, it turns into your IT band here, and it's a long tendon that inserts right here on your knee. So it's right below that kind of teardrop of your quad, and right here where it inserts, if your IT band is tight, it will rub against that quad muscle right there, causing what we call runner's knee. You can sit here and roll your IT band to blue in the face, and it's not going to help. So you want to roll out the TFL, looking for those tender spots. What that does is that relaxes the IT bands. If the IT band is tight, the IT band's a tendon. It doesn't, it's controlled by the muscle. You want to relax the muscle, okay? So that's that. All right, I think that's all of lower body, everything with this. The only other things that you need to know, I'm going to use a lacrosse ball for this. You can use a percussive massager if you happen to have one. If you don't, lacrosse ball is perfect. Right here. Oops. All right. Turn so I can see myself. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use this. So I'm trying to get my correct setup here. All right, so if you think about where those tender points are, you've got on your chest, you've got your collarbone and your sternum. You're going to go a couple fingers over and down on either side. Right in here, oh, I found them right there. There's a spot, so right in here or right in here. They're not going to be way down in the chest usually. Sometimes they are, but right in here. So the way you're going to get those with your lacrosse ball, now if you have a massage gun, just go to town, you'll feel it. But put your hand in the small of your back so it's out of the way. And you're going to put this ball in between you and the wall. And there's really not a good way of me to show you this, but so you can't really see it, but I'm going to roll back and forth until I find that tender point. So if I've got that spot and it's right here, I'm going to hang out. Now, something to remember when you're rolling your chest, the skin tends to be kind of thinner here. The muscles here are not usually crazy developed. Go easy. This is one of those areas I find that the pain doesn't necessarily decrease. It feels good, but it doesn't necessarily decrease from a number to a lower number. So it's one of those areas I would just hold for a while until you find that right spot. It's like, oh, that's nice right there. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, etc. And don't press really hard, because if you press really hard, this is going to be sore to the touch tomorrow. And then we're going to get complaining, right? So just be easy in this area. So we've got pec major, pec minor is going to be down in here. It's going to go right in here, which again, you can do with the wall. I'm just going to move it out of the way. And then you can also get right on the anterior delt. It's a lot more difficult, but it is possible. So I do here. Yeah, and it's harder to get your bicep this way, but it is possible. So you can roll right in there, and right where the clavicle inserts and comes down right in this area, this little triangle, this tends to be a pretty painful point for a lot of people. The only other spot that I want to mention is you want to use this in between your shoulder blades. So remember how we separate your shoulder blades? It's to get to this area. This area is going to be your rhomboids, your middle delts, that's mainly it. So give yourself a hug, same thing as when we were on the ground. You're gonna roll up and down. You don't wanna roll right on the shoulder blade. A lot of your tender points though are gonna be right along the edge of your shoulder blade. Now, I've got one right there. It feels good. I know that if I hang out though, not gonna get better, it's just gonna feel good, right? So if you find the law of diminishing returns in this area, don't hang out too much. It's not going to hurt you to calm it down. Oh, that right side is crunchy. FYI, no muscles in your body should be crunchy. So, yep. And another spot you can get, I'm going to show you one more from that I forgot. You can use this on your upper traps. It's just difficult, right? So if we're rolling in between the shoulder blades, then I'm going to come up, can't see, but I'm going to come up and press there against the wall. You can also use, sure, you can also use a doorway. Again, it's going to be awkward. And we'll show you something you can use. So right here, and you can press in. That's really awkward. So let me show you what I use. A lot of people use something called a Theracane. I have this cool looking device, which is called a Body Back Buddy. I like it better just because it's got more knobs on it, you know, it's got more options. These in the here, this is for low back. So you can put it on either side of the spine. And what I like about it is that you can pull on it without having to use excess force. So the main ones that I use though are this one right here. So as you can see, it's going to dig in between the shoulder blades right there, and all I gotta do is gently pull that way, right? Or the upper traps. You can find that trigger point again, pull down. Yeah, you're gonna find it right away, right? And there's some other things that you can use, but I find that these are this little tool, whether it's this or a Theracane. Oh yeah, right there. These are the things that really address these issues about as good as a massage therapist does, because they're just difficult to get to, you know? They're just not easy. So that's what I have for foam rolling today. I think I covered all the implements you can think of. So we got upper body, chest, biceps, triceps, forearms, upper back, traps. We didn't get into the neck today. That's all finger stuff. You also really want to be careful with that. So if you're going to do neck, it's the SCM, take it in between your fingers, or you can approach it this way. Scalings, again, gets a little iffy. So just be careful with that. Masseter you can use with this is fun. I don't know that I included this one. The masseter is a jaw muscle, and instead of using your fingers, I'm always a fan of using an implement instead of your body, because that way you're not creating excess tension in another area. It's not just fun to have all these toys, so it's fun. The thing that you can do is you can find that masseter muscle, that big flat muscle. If it's tight, you're gonna find it. Oh, right there, right? Tack it down, twist it. And I don't mean twist it all the way, just twist it a little bit, like 1/8 of a turn. Now move your jaw. Oh yeah, right? So you're gonna press, tack and twist, tack, twist, move, right? Twist. And I don't think it matters which direction you go, just whatever feels best. But I like using that instead of your fingers. Your fingers are fine, but then you're creating more tension in your forearm. So that one actually came out of Kelly Starrett's book, Supple Leopard, I think. But she's got a ton of great information. So then we covered lower body. I think that's it. So do we have any questions? Is there anything I didn't cover? Yeah, maybe not. Cool. All right. Let me move the screen up. Okay, so I think I got everything. So hopefully this gives a little bit more in-depth tutorial to all the SMR stuff that's in the module. When we're designing our own programs, you always want to start with SMR first. So you want to relax what's tight or release what's tight. And then you follow whatever was tight up with the stretch. Now remember, just trying to figure out our own programming, generally these things back here don't need to be stretched. Generally, not sometimes they do. Like Corey plays bassoon. So her arm is back here. This is going to be tight for her. This is going to be weak for her. So she needs to roll back here, probably not as much here, but vice versa on the other side. So think about how you hold your instrument when you're trying to figure out what is actually tight versus what's tight and weak, or what's just weak and mad or stretched, right? Because a lot of times those painful points come from things being weak and stretched, and we're looking for tight and just kissed. You know, it just tends to not show itself. It tends to shove the pain off another body part. So we want to roll those areas, and when we found those tight areas, we're going to follow it up with a stretch, which we'll get into. Then we're going to follow it up with an activation exercise for whatever was weak. So anything that those tight muscles have been inhibiting, now is their time to kick on. We're going to get into that next time. We incorporate it into a full body exercise, and you have your own corrective exercise routine. And that can change from day to day, week to week, month, year to year. Normally it's going to stay the same as your life stays the same, but things will decrease in intensity. So that's for today. thanks for joining me. If no questions, we're out. I'm gonna eat dinner. Thanks for joining me today.